Hello and welcome to tonight's free webinar on how to protect yourself against viruses. My name is Martin Stone from Switch On Health, and if you are watching this on YouTube and you would like to help Switch On Health in its mission to make natural health available for everyone, please hit that subscribe button just below and ask your friends and family also to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It is free, and the more subscribers we have, the more we can offer. And we look forward to offering you a lot more in the future. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, this is a live recording of a session conducted on Tuesday, the 10th of March in the year 2020. And we are in the midst of a coronavirus panic. So tonight's session will be about how to protect yourself against all viruses, but it's particularly pertinent tonight because of what we're seeing at the moment. And this will be a familiar scene to many people. These are photos that I took today in our local supermarket. And as you can see, there's been a big run on toilet paper, which suggests to me, pardon my language, it suggests to me that people are quite literally shitting themselves about the coronavirus. So when I was confronted with this scene in the supermarket today, I thought, okay, well, I better see what else people are worried about and what they're stocking up on to protect themselves against the virus. And of course, if you've got no toilet paper, tissues are the next thing that you turn to. And I thought, okay, people are obviously really worried about the virus. What's going on in the medicines aisle? We can see that hand sanitizer is another popular item that people have stocked up on. We're selling out of hand sanitizer. And we're also selling out of aspirin and paracetamol. Now, these two particular pharmaceuticals are going to do nothing to protect you against catching the coronavirus or any virus. And then they may even make things worse for you. So I'll say that again, in case you missed it. Aspirin and paracetamol will do nothing to protect you against catching a virus, and they may even make things worse for you. So I thought, okay, this is interesting. People are obviously worried about the virus. What are the other things that we might stock up on? What would I stock up on if I was really worried about an upcoming epidemic? So I thought, well, I'd probably stock up on vitamin C, but as you can see, there's plenty of vitamin C and other immune products left on the shelf. And looking at another brand, we can see that their immune products are selling so slowly that they're even on special, and people are still not buying them. So people are worried, but are they buying the right things, or are they taking the right action? What else might you think of when you think about how can I protect myself against infection? Well, garlic, that's something that is well known to protect us against a wide range of infections, and there's still plenty of garlic left, so people are obviously not going crazy buying garlic. What else? Well, what about oranges? Because everybody knows that oranges are high in vitamin C and they're good for you and they're good for your immune system, right? Well, people are not stocking up on oranges. As we can see, we've got this bounty of oranges and lemons and limes and other fruits that are, just packed with vitamins and antioxidants and things that are going to help you. But people are not panic buying carrots or any of the other fruits. There's no shortage of them. And these things will actually help us. So I don't want to make light of the coronavirus. People have died from it already, and obviously our thoughts are with their families. And I honestly don't know whether coronavirus will be as bad as some people are afraid it will be or not. But what I do know is this: the environment, your internal environment, is more important than the germ. What you do and what you eat will be what makes the biggest difference to your health. Nature has provided us with an amazing array of remedies and simple things that we can do to maximize our health and to maximize our immune systems and to protect ourselves against viral infections. Now, the good news is it doesn't actually matter whether it's a coronavirus or even just a common cold virus. These remedies are going to be exactly the same, and they're going to help us regardless. So we're going to talk about some of these remedies tonight. Some of them may be familiar to you already. Some of them are generally only known to people who have studied natural health and are complementary medicine health professionals, or people who are currently studying natural health. So to talk to you about some of these remedies tonight, we have experienced naturopath and homeopath Sally Maisie, a dear friend of mine who has also been teaching in this field for many, many years. So Sally, over to you.
Thanks, Martin. Just wait 1 second, if you would, everyone, while I share a little PowerPoint for you as well, so that we can talk our way through all of this. As Martin said, we are in a panic. And I think, unfortunately, that panic has become fear. And so we need to be aware to believe whether or not, and I've heard this once said, and it's one of our modern day philosophers or life coaches said, that fear is merely false evidence appearing real. So take that one and dwell on it for a while. I think it's rather poignant. But let's move on from there. Let's see what we can do to help ourselves during this time and not panic, yeah? So as you can see here, there's a little bit of data on COVID-19, so also known as the coronavirus. You know, the death rate at the moment is not the same as that of SARS and MERS. It seems to be hitting a mortality of those over 50, that's myself included, more men than women, around about 80% recover without any intervention. So that's just self-quarantine and doing some of these things that we'll give you some information about tonight. It seems as though it is more transmissible potentially than, say, SARS and MERS. But you know, the virus has been going on for a little while now, and we need to have some considerations for things. So those things are, it's a rough estimate due to that incubation period. They're saying that the incubation period is around about 14 days. But they are also saying that hygiene is essential, and we will go through that and obviously what hygiene means. And then the risk factors. So again, as I said before, seems to be hitting those that are 50 plus. And those that have immunosuppression or immunodisorders, in addition to those that have things like comorbidities, which are heart conditions or high blood pressure, things like that, or have respiratory conditions such as asthma and bronchitis, etc., or have suffered from them in the past. So the thing is, though, that with the symptoms, it's interesting, as Martin said, that toilet paper seems to have gone awry, and we've forgotten that worst comes to worst, we've got showers that we can wash ourselves away with. You know, our babies were given cloth nappies, so I don't know why we've come so far away from that panic to have toilet paper. But respiratory symptoms, which is what this is. It is a respiratory condition, this outbreak of COVID-19. And so respiratory symptoms are fever, runny nose, not necessarily clearing throat, sorry, that's just me, but coughing and sneezing, having an aching body, and having shortness of breath. So respiratory distress, potentially. And knowing the difference between that and perhaps an asthma attack or a cold is vital. But digestive symptoms for viruses tend to be, you know, cramping and diarrhea, nausea and vomiting. That's not what they're saying about this particular virus. So consider that when you're you know, looking after yourselves, if you do find yourself in quarantine. And food will help in all ways, and we'll go through that. So here's, you know, what the Australian government has put out. Fever, coughs, sore throats, shortness of breath. Preventative strategies, which the government has also spoken about, you know, maintain a healthy immune system, which we're going to talk about at length tonight. Well, not at length, but as quick as I can. And having a balanced mental health. You know, they've been describing these survival instincts that we are seeing in the supermarkets, people being fearful, which is a survival instinct. So there are going to be those that are thinking logically and think, yes, I'll do all I can to prevent and maintain my good health. I've not travelled recently, so, you know, less at risk. I've, you know, not been in contact with anybody thus far as I know that has this particular virus, so potentially not at risk. I'm under 50 and feeling good and healthy, etc. Or I'm, you know, I'm over 50 and feeling good and healthy, etc. So therefore, the panic is irrational to buy all the toilet paper, etc., that they've been discussing philosophically and psychologically on so many news programs of late. But they are logical and rational in some ways as well. So limiting your personal interactions, you know, keeping that 1 metre distance if you can. I'm sure you've all seen the funny videos of, you know, fist bumping and, you know, elbowing and toe tapping. Washing your hands. Now, washing your hands is a vital one, and people don't wash their hands long enough. This is where I will get a little bit serious, because washing your hands really needs to be complete washing of hands, not this and walk away. It really does need to be washing of hands, in between the fingers, in between your thumbs, on the tops of the hands. And as I've got there, it says happy birthday. So you need to sing happy birthday a couple of times, and that's the length of time it takes to wash your hands effectively. And then touching your face. So if you've got dirty hands and you haven't washed your hands, and then you're putting yourself near your orifices, you know, your mouth, it's open, your nose, it's open, your eyes are open, your ears are open. So microbes can get in. Hence the reason why they don't want you to touch your face. So there's the washing hands procedure with soap. I sometimes think there are some non-alcoholic hand sanitizers that you can buy online, but most of the hand sanitizers are alcoholic. So again, not necessarily good for the skin, deteriorates the oil sebum, and can then leave you open again for bacteria and viruses to sit on your hands. Now I'll talk a bit about the homeopathic side of things first of all, because that's foremost what I am. I am a homeopath. It is where my passion lies. And there's been a recent study, well, some research done at the Central Council of Research in Homeopathy, which is a government ministry council in India. And India is probably where most of the homeopathics or homeopaths and homeopathy is practiced, along with Ayurvedic, etc. Hence the reason why it says Ushush, Y is for yoga. So the research believes that Arsenicum album, which is one of our homeopathics, a 30C, so that is the potency. I should have put that in. I apologise. I should have put that in. Taken as a prophylactic. So a prophylactic is a preventative, okay? So taken as a preventative on an empty stomach. This is what this Central Council is saying, for 3 days, and then only repeated each month as long as the virus is in this pandemonium, okay? If you want more details about that, you can certainly look it up online. The next one is a nosode, and this was made from the blood from the Spanish flu. Now, although it's a bacterium, and again, bacteriums are bacteria and are very different to viruses, but the person that did this study showed that this too can help clear up some viral flu type symptoms. And it is called Oscillococcinum. and it's very difficult. I'm not the best at pronouncing it. I'm sure that's meant to be pronounced a much better way, but this is what this bacterium is. And then my old favorite, which is Gelsenium, and this is for flu-like symptoms. We're really drowsy eyes, those really hefty, drowsy eyes, those really droopy eyelids, droopy face, that real sort of slow moving, don't want to get about, aching body, low fever, gradual fever. Okay, so they're the homeopathics that you can consider. And this next slide is what our Arsenicum album looks like. So here's this person in bed. They don't want to be left alone. They want to have nice warm drinks. They want to be warm. They want to be comforted. They want to have little sips of drinks. They're really sort of aware of time. It's worse at night. You can see that there's a little sort of pot there by the bedside. This is also the remedy that's very good for what we call deli belly, so any food poisoning. So this is your gastro one as well. So if perhaps you do get any sort of virus and it does turn into a digestive virus, then arsenicum could be potentially helping again also. We then move on to dietary recommendations. Biggest one obviously is to stay hydrated. We've got water. Filtered water is better than potentially chlorinated, but it's up to you as to which water you choose to drink. Coconut water. Now, coconut water is good when there is a fever or there is sweating because it has electrolytes in it. It's our version of a natural drink with electrolytes. Certainly your herbal teas are great. Lemon balm, peppermint, green tea, elderberry, all really good for immune boosters. Peppermint though, just be careful of that. It can have laxative properties. So your spearmint, your mint family, if you have too many teas, can have a laxative sort of properties. Green tea with all the antioxidants. Elderberries tea and hibiscus also. High in vitamin C, but you've got to be careful with your herbal teas. Make sure that you don't boil them, because if you put hot boiling water over them, you reduce those volatile oils and tannins and the medicinal properties. So just be aware of that. And the old favourites, lemon, again, vitamin C gets deteriorated with too much heat. So the old lemon and honey drink is good as well, but put your lemon in afterwards. Don't put hot boiling water over it. And then honey, make sure it's raw because it has that antimicrobial properties and is essential. Healthy, balanced diet. If you find yourself in a situation of isolation, then the thing to consider is smoothies and soups and stews. Have a bone broth in your freezer. Have good stock cubes in your freezer, which has that good gelatin for connective tissue. Have the stews that have still the gelatin layer over them. Have your smoothies that you can drink, that you can have ready made, and you can just zap away if you have a blender. If not, sort of chop it up nice and finely and add it to milk and try and do it that way. Some of the foods that you might want to consider adding into some of your smoothies and your soups and your stews are brewer's yeast, which is a nutritional yeast. It's good vitamin Bs. So they're your daily vitamin Bs, which is essential for good immune health also. And molasses, the same. Molasses also high in iron, which is going to help if there's any fatigue, if you do happen to get anything. You can work your way up to 1 tablespoon a day, but I would recommend 1 tablespoon a day of either one of these. You can mix it up. You've then got your culinary herbs. Now, with your herbs, please be sure with your herbs to actually add them at the last minute. Don't, when you're cooking, add them as recipes, say, to enhance the flavour, because you lose their medicinal properties. So it is better to add them after. At the last minute. You're still going to get those volatile oils, you're still going to smell everything, and especially with things like your garlic and your gingers, put them in, because the allium in these herbs, especially your garlic, actually deteriorates medicinally if it gets too hot also. But good stocks, good bone broths, always the way to go. Vitamin C, fruit and veg all the way. Again, you know, as Martin said, oranges, you know, orange vegetables, that beta carotene to help with the vitamin A and boost your vitamin A, which is also an immune booster, which I'll talk about. Zinc is vital, absolutely essential for immune health. Zinc has 600 functions and properties. Yeah, seafood, nuts, seeds, legumes, whole grains. As you can see, it is literally just a healthy, balanced diet, making sure that these foods are in your everyday intake. Antioxidant foods, you're looking at that rainbow, and here we have it. How many colours do you eat in a day? This is what you should be going out to buy. You know, reduce your pharmaceuticals potentially, and your toilet paper, and remember that food is medicine. But if it gets to the point where you are concerned, highly concerned, then you might want to supplement, and then we can move on to the nutritional supplement side of things. And the first was vitamin C, as Martin said, you know, in your citrus fruits, in your kiwi fruit, one of the higher ones. So they're the sorts of things. As it says there, it's a major antioxidant. But vitamin C is one of the few vitamins, because of those antioxidant properties that reduces those free radicals, that has a prophylactic, again, a preventative use to build the immune system. So it helps to build our immune system and keep it protected and keep it working efficiently and effectively. It can also then be taken therapeutically. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And to reduce what that's going to do is then reduce any duration and severity of viruses that you might find that you have. And the other thing that vitamin C does is dampen a histamine. Now, histamine is a hormone released when you have an allergic reaction. So, you know, you might find that certain things happen, you know, you might get breathless, things like that. So it reduces that histamine response. You can certainly look that up and have a look at histamine reducing and increasing foods. The dosage for vitamin C, now everybody gets a bit confused here, because basically vitamin C is a daily vitamin and it needs to be eaten, so it needs to be consumed daily. It's not like the fat soluble of vitamin A, it's a water soluble vitamin. And so we take it to what's called bowel tolerance. So this is what I recommend that you all do, and I hope you're listening carefully here. On rising, when you wake up in the morning, take 1 teaspoon of a very good practitioner only, I would recommend vitamin C powder, as opposed to the chewables, because they can, sit on your teeth, the absorbic acid, and erode your teeth enamel. Or the ones that you swallow, because they might not absorb as easily, depending on the quality of the actual vitamin C tablet. So get a good powder. Melrose, which is reasonably cheap, make sure it's got bioflavonoids in it, but it is one of the retail brands that I would recommend. But 1 teaspoon on rising. Then have another teaspoon in an hour. Then have another teaspoon the next hour. Then have another teaspoon in the next hour, until you feel what we call in the natural health industry as bowel griping or abdominal griping. What this is the sensation that you get just prior to you wanting to have a bowel movement or defecating, okay? So that's what it's asking for. Sorry, that's my dog barking in the background there. Charlie, shush. So what happens is that the actual, sorry, Charlie, enough. So what happens is you get this griping, you get this sensation as though you are wanting to have a bowel movement. That, then count back all your teaspoons. That's then telling you what your daily dose of vitamin C should be. That's telling you how much you should have. And then you do it the next day. And it might be more or it might be less. But therapeutically, that's the way to take it to bowel tolerance when you're taking your vitamin C. Vitamin A, fat-soluble vitamin, regulates the immune system because what it does is it helps to boost the numbers of the white blood cells. So here you can see a supplemental range. A supplemental range means a therapeutic range. So this is when you are ill, not when you are well, okay? So 10,000 to 50,000 IUs a day. That's not very much. It's to be taken in the form of retinol palmitate and just for a couple of days. It's short term, okay? Most supplements are short term. They should be no more than sort of 3 months. You shouldn't be on supplements long term. And we can talk about that at a later date. But just for today, I'll continue on. Zinc, vital for a good, healthy immune system, up to 75 milligrams per day while you are unwell. And the other thing that I recommend for zinc is that you consider drops because it gets in sublingually. Sublingually then means that it's going to get into the body quicker and be assimilated and absorbed by the body, potentially better sometimes because it doesn't have to go through the hydrochloric acid of the stomach secretions. So there's your zinc and there's your zinc foods. I can't emphasize enough how good vitamin C and zinc are during that sort of, virus sort of season. But here are two that you might not have heard of. These are a little bit different. One is NAC, and what that does is inhibit those viruses. It reduces what's called caspase, which is an enzyme that induces inflammation and causes good, healthy cellular death prematurely, okay? You can only get this if you are a practitioner though, all right? So as a student, if you are a student, I would recommend that what you do is that you go to a good practice because they'll be able to source it for you. The other one is mushrooms. Now, a lot of the Japanese mushrooms have shown beautiful immune modulating properties. So they help to keep the immune system well balanced. So it keeps it at this beautiful, healthy level, and it works efficiently, which is really great. Here is one that I would recommend. Again, it is a practitioner-only product, so you would have to go through a natural health practitioner. Another one that you may not have heard of, many of you, Blackmores do a professional practitioner range, which is called Sellards. These Sellards were discovered in the cadavers or the ashes of cremated cadavers, in the cremations of human bodies. And there is 11 of them, and 3 that I've put here are all about inflammation. There are 3 stages to your inflammation when you then have infections that come through. This is the way your body starts to fight it. So the first stage is just inflammation. There might be a fever, there might be redness, soreness, your secretions and your discharges are going to be clear. So you're going to be, you might be teary, you might have a runny nose that's clear, you might be sneezing, that's clear. Yeah. The next is what we call albumus, which is like egg white, beaten egg whites, and it's thicker and it's more viscous, and you can just see it. It's ropey, That's it's like a little child with chewing gum. It's that thick and stringy, and that's second stage, inflammation and infection. Then the third is we all sort of have said to our GPs, I'm sure we've all said this to a GP, and he says, what colours you discharge? You say yellow, yellow, green. Well, that yellow, yellow, green, ladies and gentlemen, is actually your immune system fighting infection. That is the waste product and the colour that it produces when its little soldiers are going out there, called macrophages and mast cells, to fight the viruses that you have in your body. And I've put these Sellards here because the first one is iron phosphate. It's for first stage inflammation. It's for fever. I've given it to a little bubba who was 3 months old who had a fever, and the fever went away. These Blackmore Sellards are very cheap. They work well with other medications where there are comorbidities in some of your patients or family or loved ones. the PC is potassium chloride, and that's that second stage. So when it's white, and then the third stage is potassium sulfate, where it's that yellow green. Some of you might know them in the tissue salts, the Schussler tissue salts, and they're the homeopathic side of things. But for an acute dose, you can take them every 15 minutes. You know, the worst case scenario is that you are just going to urinate out what your body doesn't need. And from a financial perspective, these are quite cheap. They range, I've never seen them above sort of, $18 a bottle. So they do run fairly cheap. This is one that I would highly recommend because this incorporates first and second stage inflammation. So this is potassium chloride 9-phosphate. We then move on to herbs. Now Martin is more of a herbalist than I, so I'll leave some of this information for him at the end because I'm sure he'll talk you through some of these herbs as well. My love is food and homeopathy more so, and the Sellards. But these 5 herbs are preventative herbs. So they prevent viruses by boosting the immune system. I put that information on echinacea because you also need to understand that, some people that might get these viruses could be pregnant. And so you need to understand what herbs also are safe for pregnancy, and they're called a category A herb. So yeah, echinacea is one of the best ones. The biggest thing about echinacea though is just understand that you might start salivating a bit more. There's nothing wrong with it because it's a saliagogue and it makes you salivate more. So don't think, if you have people say to you, oh, I'm just dribbling all the time, just say that could be the herb. It's nothing bad. But it is for upper respiratory tract infections and fever. It's a preventative during that flu season, or echinacea for the exposure to infection. So this is also to be given at any first stages of an infection. Olive leaf destroys viruses. It's a good killer. Hence the reason why you can be having good dressings with olive oil as well. Okay, and eating olives. Olives are just power packed, absolutely power packed. Andrographis, antiviral herb, Siberian ginseng, also immune enhancing. The thing with your herbs though, you really do need a herbalist to do a good formula for you, because they'll base it on your symptoms, and they'll also, if you say to them, I'd like something for the flu season that's coming up, they'll work some preventatives for you. Okay, and then we move on to some herbs. This is a picture of some of them. You've got your olive leaf, you've got your echinacea, and you've got your I can't remember what the other, astragalus, sorry. Next, we've got the therapeutics. So the therapeutics are those that you take when you are unwell. So elderberry, you saw it before when I was talking about it for teas. It's anti-inflammatory. Marshmallow is great because it also makes the herbs taste a little better. Just know that if you're a student and going to move on to be a pracky, it makes it more compliant for the patient, along with licorice as well. But it is specifically for those real coughs. Marshmallow is also when you have coughs of any description, so any sort of cough, including something like whooping cough as well. You could add marshmallow into the tincture. Elecampane also when there is breathing difficulties, and this is a cough preventative, so it's good to have elecampane early on. And the reason being is it's a cough, it comes generally at the sort of second to third stage of that inflammatory sort of process sometimes. Licorice reduces cell virus replication, so it doesn't allow the virus to get any bigger or any worse, and halts healthy cell invasion. So it stops the virus from not only replicating and having more viral cells in your body, but it also stops the virus from penetrating the healthy cells that you still may have. The only thing with licorice is you do have to be careful. And with any herbs, I'll reiterate this, with any herbs, with any supplements, you do have to be very aware of any contraindications with any pharmaceutical drugs that any of your patients, family, friends may be on, because contraindications can be life-threatening. Okay, so please be very aware of that. This is elderberry, absolutely delicious. And then we then have supportive strategies. So we've gone through the preventive strategies, we've gone through nutrition, we've gone through homeopathy, we've gone through the herbs. Now we've got what's called supportive strategies. This is things that you can do prior to any virus, but also that you can do if you do find yourself potentially, if that occurs, and I do not wish this upon any of you because you're proactive enough to be here. I don't think you'd be toilet paper scroungers. But the supportive strategies are those that you could do if you find yourself in self-isolation. So this is things like yoga. For those of you that probably do yoga, it is all about the breath. So it is all about that actual sort of ability, okay? Exercise both for cardiovascular and for weight. Sleep patterns, I'm speeding up slightly because I'm about to run out of time. Good sleep hygiene practice is really good because that helps with mental health as well, which is vital. So you just need to be aware of that. Creative things, you know, bake cakes if you want to bake a cake, you know, do creative soups and stews and that sort of thing. Paint a picture. Remember, life is beautiful at the end of the day. Those of us that sit in light rather than darkness will continue to always sit in light. There is for those of you that may have some negative mental health issues, there is this Breathe app, and I'm about to wrap up, and obviously vitamin D. It's interesting that Louise L. Hay, who is all about positive affirmations, has put here for influenza a response to mass negativity and